Hello everyone, welcome to the Wootz forum. This is Jacob Christian with Bestland Blade Works, and I wanted to give you guys an overview of the website and specifically how the Wootz calculator works. So starting off here, we have the home page with links to different things. I have some of my ingots up here. Proper loading of crucibles. There's also a forum section where you can ask questions. As you can see, I post a lot of stuff on there. Stuff talking about the iron carbon phase diagram, and then here we got some pictures. This one was originally when I first started making crucible steel. This was a charcoal furnace, and it was really hot. The middle one here is, you can see the infrared glow from my furnace after I was doing the curing cycle on the Casterlite 30. Pretty interesting stuff. Only the camera picks this up, so that's why you should wear eye protection. Got some ingots and then crucibles before I broke the ingot out of them, but that's not the point of this. We'll go to the top here. Under the About section, got things about the website, a write-up about what Wootz steel is, getting started with Wootz steel. This is a basic intro to it, like loading the crucibles, this stuff here. Loading the crucibles, selecting the correct feed materials and things like that. And then the iron carbon phase diagram, which is really an integral part of making Wootz steel. You really need to understand that. Difference between pearlite, martensite, spherodite, austenite. It just keeps going on and on and on. There's a lot. Then onto the forum. There's a bunch of information here. I post pretty regularly and have some walkthroughs and stuff like that. So you can come here and post questions, and I'll do my best to answer them, or other people might answer them. Onto the tools, we have the flat grind calculator. This is for calculating how tall a bevel will be given a specified thickness of material. Hollow grind calculator, it's essentially the same thing, but then you throw in the extra piece of how big a wheel you're using for your hollow grind, which makes a difference on how tall your hollow grind will go on the knife compared to the diameter of the wheel and the thickness of the steel you're working on. And then this is the tapered tang calculator. It's not only for tapered tangs. I also use this for distal tapers on my Ameribraid surface grinding attachment. So if you check this one out, the pivot points are set at 10 inches because that's standard for Ameribraid, but I set it where you can change it to anything you want. We will go back to the flat grained calculator and say you wanted a 3/4 inch tall, well, and this is also inches or millimeter, imperial or metric. Say you wanted a bevel that was 3/4 inch tall, you put that in there. Stock thickness 3/16, which is 0.18. And then you want your desired edge thickness to end at 0.02. Put that in there, click calculate, and then you get this information here. So each side that you grind on the knife will have to be 6.125 degrees for you to get that desired edge thickness, with your stock being this thick, with your bevel being this high. It's essentially the same thing for the hollow grind, wheel diameter, stock thickness, edge thickness, like I said. And then there's some instructions up here if you need to come back to them or you don't know how it works. This is all mobile friendly as well, so I regularly use the tapered tang calculator on my phone when I'm out at the grinder, so I can punch it in real quick and figure out what that shim thickness needs to be. Moving on, the main part of this is the Wootz calculator, and this is probably the coolest part. So this is the main screen that you'll see. You have to log in so we can save feed materials and recipes and notes and stuff like that to your personal account so that no one else can see that information. And then it's always there when you log back in, and you can bring it up real easily. So we'll go ahead and log in real quick. All right, now that we're logged in, I put all these in sliding dividers, I think is what they're called. just because it gets in the way sometimes, and I want to get to the meat of things and not have to scroll through 5 pages of feed materials, which you'll see in a sec here. The instructions are always here. You just have to click this to scroll down so you can see the information. This tells you basically what everything does and how to use it, but I wanted to give a video overview of it so that there are no questions about anything. First off, we have the recipes. This is where all of your recipes will be saved. For future reference, we'll drop this down. As you can see, I've been using this quite some time. Down to 11.1, which is only a couple days ago. So we have the recipe name, the date it was done, ingredients, just like a quick overview so you can get an idea of what was going on. The target carbon percentage for that specific melt, and then we have load and delete buttons. For each one of these, each ingot or each recipe has its own notes section where you can add specifics for that ingot, things that went right, things that went wrong, what to do next time. We can click into here and you say this is ferrovanadium test with low levels of vanadium and chromium. You can update this, do whatever you want. You can click out of it, goes away. So if we were to come in here and load this, it automatically brings you down to the calculator section and then loads each of the materials in that's saved in the database, along with the weights and then the chemical composition of each of the steels. So you don't have to type that stuff in or copy and paste it ever. It's just automatically added in. But before we get to that, we're going to do feed materials. This is all the feed materials, same basic setup, the name and then the chemical composition. The special part here, carbon source. So this is what the calculator looks for to determine how much it should, or which feed material it should auto increment to get to the specified 1.5% or whatever you have on your recipe. You can do 1.5, 1.7, stuff like that. So as you can see here, graphite is a carbon source, graphite pellets, carbon source, graphite powder, carbon source, pig iron, also carbon. So these are only for your carbon sources that will up your carbon percentage. There's a bunch of other stuff in here. Water, atomized steel, wrought iron, pure copper, phosphorus iron powder, a bunch of different things. If you wanted to add a new element, you can come in here, test, and then say you wanted whatever, 1% carbon, 0.3 manganese, 0.002 vanadium, and then the rest of these you can just leave blank if you have nothing to enter for them. They will default to 0 if there's no value entered. So we can add that material, we get a notification, test has been added. Okay, test gets added, and then the page refreshes. And then where are we at? Test. Boom, all of these get defaulted to 0 if you don't put anything in there. Then we can delete that because we don't need it. Delete it, yes. Okay. So then back to the calculator. We'll load one of these recipes, the last one here. Load, puts all of the feed materials in here with their specified contents, chemical compositions, and weights. If we wanted to add one of the rows, all of our feed materials are listed in this drop down here, so we can just add one of them real quick. So we wanted to add some 1095 in there, we can add that row. It just gets added to the bottom here, and then we can put in a weight for how much we want. The material name, recipe name goes in here, and then your target carbon percentage. This determines how much it auto increments the carbon source, this one. So auto increment this up and then tell you how much it should be to get to that desired 1.5%. Save and update recipe names. Pretty self-explanatory. And then there's also notes here. Does the same thing. Has that information there. And then we can come down here to calculate recipe, but wait, we have a blank spot. Please fill out all name and weight fields. Okay, so then we can just put 0 in here if we don't want it. Or actually, if we don't want it, we can just delete that row. Boom, gone. calculate the recipe. Then we get the total weight, 2,017 grams, 2.017 kilograms. And then for a 1.5068% carbon ingot, use 740 grams. So say we set this to 0. And then calculate again, 738 for 1.5001. It gets as close as it can within like 0.001% of what you put on here. So it gets really close. So we can just take this, copy that, and then throw it up here. Calculate 1.5001%, and then it calculates all the other stuff as well. Say we didn't want a 2 kilogram ingot, we only wanted a 1 kilogram ingot. We can come over here, we can put in 1,000 grams is 1 kilogram, update that ingot weight, and then it changes all of these values to match what you put in. And we look at the total weight down here, 1,000. Auto increments everything. Same thing with multiplier, but this is like, say you were multiplying the final weight by something. So if you wanted to double it, we would do 2 multiplier, and we get to 2,000 grams. If we wanted to half it, we do 0.5. 1,000 times 0.5, or sorry, 2,000 times 0.5, half of it, 1,000. Automatically recalculates down here. You are good to go. And then this part is pretty cool. These are estimates based off of the phase diagram. This is the phase diagram and the write-up about it. So this line here is going to be your ACM line. And then we also have this line here, which is your liquid or liquid and austenite line. So we can go back to the website, or to the calculator, sorry. So the ACM for 1.5 is 1.5 carbon ingot is going to be 952.25 Celsius, which is, I mean, we're trying to get pretty close. It really depends on the formulation of your steel, how much vanadium, how much chromium, stuff like that, because that has different changes for the A1, ACM, AGR lines. So this gives you a roundabout idea of where that will be. For AGR graphite line, that's going to be 50 degrees more than the ACM line. And then for the roast temp, I usually, for 1.5% carbon ingot, I like doing around 1080, but don't go higher than the 1100 C. And then the cool down melting point, this is for when you are at the end of your melt and you want to go over that phase change slowly. It's going to be at 1400 degrees is when it starts melting. So opposite of that is when it starts solidifying. Take that with a grain of salt though, because crucible temperatures and how they're read with thermocouples is not exactly too spot on. That is about it for the Wootz calculator. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. I answer messages pretty quick, I like to think. YouTube is a bit new for me, so getting those notifications and answering those questions might take a little bit longer than normal, but I'm always on Instagram and answer those messages pretty quick. So if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. And if I don't respond fast enough, you can also always go to the forum and post any questions you have there as well.